The following program is rated TV MA-LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
I got the business in the front and party in the back. Whenever I pass by, I give women heart attacks. I don't gotta work out, I let the mullet flex, no stress. The follicle fountain's in full effect. Word to my boy Riff, word to my man Theo. My lady broke up with me cause she's sick of my damn ego. If you don't like my mullet, I don't want you anyway. Now she's all up in my DMs and texting me every day cause she misses it. Used to say I look ridiculous, but now she envisions it on other dudes when they're hitting it. She's got a broken heart and nothing to fix it with, and I got a sore scalp from other chicks that are gripping it. When I got my hair cut, the barber said sure, and she started buzzing with a wide smile. And when she got done and I was walking out the door, she said it's more than a hairdo, it's a lifestyle. My mullet, my mullet, it's my mullet. I really don't think you...
Welcome to the Mac The Mullet Show. I'm your host, awesome. Mac The Mullet. I'm Mac The Mullet, your host. Conner Mckenna is my co-host, with our guest Mark Slater, the founder, owner of Coliseum Combat and his own card show in Kokomo, Indiana. How you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Oh,
very well.
Not too bad.
So, Conner, I'd like to get up. Would you like to give us a little background? What's going on with that?
So, I don't care if it's 8 weeks, 4 weeks, or 2 weeks like I just got. No matter what, I get the opportunity, I take that shit. Now watch me come in there and fuck this kid up within, I say, a round. This kid will not last. This is my time. And, you know, even though it's a short opportunity and short notice, that does not bother me at all. I've been in this game long enough. And especially, I know how I am. I know how my hands are. And I know that this kid's not going to be able to do what I do, especially in my sport of boxing, which I started at the age of 14, had my first fights, and now I get to do it bare knuckle in front of the world on one of the biggest stages. So I'm coming, and I'm ready.
Hey, cutting promos like prison shanks do chomos, baby. I like that.
Yes, sir.
How you doing tonight, Mark? Like, if you'd like to introduce yourself, give a little background of how you got into the fight game and such.
Man, how can I follow that up? That was pretty awesome. No, I got into this a long time ago. I had buddies that were competing, and I sponsored a few guys back then. Ended up fighting just a couple times myself, but I was already, you know, in my 30s, and then had an opportunity to where I could buy Coliseum Combat, and I bought it in 2009, and have done 50-some shows since then.
Damn.
The first Coliseum Combat was back in 2006, back even when...
That was Jay Martin had actually owned it back then, and then I bought it from him in 2009. I'd actually contacted him about fighting for him. And he's like, man, my heart ain't in it anymore. Buy it and do something with it. I couldn't. And that was right when sanctioning was getting ready to take effect, and he didn't want to deal with the state and all that. So I ended up buying it, and however many years later, yeah.
A little fun fact about Coliseum Combat. I have two brothers myself that are pro fighters. Not my loser brother, Johnny, you know, my Siamese twin. But my actual cool younger brothers that listen to everything I ever taught them, every single thing down to except They can't grow one of these. But my brother Christopher, rest his soul, he made his pro debut back in October of 2011 for Mark. And my other brother Sean, one of his he was 8 or 9-1 going in as an amateur and finished Derek Cook with a first round rear naked choke. He's a stud athlete as well. But take us back, Mark. Was that those are around some of your big earlier shows? Wasn't it 2000? I think Coliseum Combat 16 and 18. Take it ahead.
Yeah, I took it over. I think it was 2011 Coliseum Combat 11 was the first one I had done as a promoter. I had actually sponsored a few of the guys that fought for Jay. I'd sponsored one of his events, and then, like I said, ended up having an opportunity to purchase it, and then did one of the first sanctioned events in 2010. So that was right when the state kind of took over, and I didn't know what I was really doing, but at the same time, nobody really did because they were used to doing it, pre-sanctioning. So we were all kind of figuring it out for the first time.
Yeah, it was the wild, wild Midwest back then. Obviously, like you were saying, it was just getting to the sanctioning time in Indiana, where a lot of people don't realize this. There used to be 10 shows a weekend. Every weekend there was no blood work being done. It was the wild, wild West. I know I had over 30 unsanctioned fights in the state of Indiana, and most of them aren't on my record for various reasons probably. But Mark, let me ask you something. Fighters go through a lot of things, you cut weight, dealing with. What's one of the biggest hurdles and headaches that comes to being a promoter for a show? Like if you were going to give a young guy aspiring to be a promoter advice, what's 3 things that you would tell them that it could either be pitfalls or things that they need to look out for if they were trying to get into the promotion business?
The roughest thing is depending on people for stuff that's out of your control. I mean, you can get all the paperwork done, you can get everything lined up with the state, the venue, everything. And if fighters don't do what they're supposed to, then you can't have a show. So in the early days, I mean, I was literally taking guys to the doctor, waiting in the lobby while they got blood work. I mean, going to gyms, doing everything I could to kind of, make sure the show went on, let's say. And I don't think a whole lot of people realize what all goes into it. And so, some people can make it look kind of easy, and then they get involved and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, you had to do this for every guy, do this, the insurance, there's a lot of red tape that goes into having an event that I don't think a lot of people know about.
Okay. I've heard there's horror stories on both sides, and I've heard that you take pretty good care of your fighters, and obviously, like you're saying, things that are out of control. Excuse me?
Yeah, I definitely try to do the best I can, for sure. There's certain things out of your control, but I mean, I always at least tried to treat all fighters the same. I never really brought people in to get their heads beat in. I never, paid one guy 80% of the ticket sales and gave the other guys peanuts. I always tried to do the best I could with what I had.
Yes, and that's speaking to matchmaking. You do, I know personally for a fact that you do match well according to experience levels. That's a thing that I try to warn fighters about getting into the business. Just because you may think you're training to fight, you may think you're a fighter, but there's levels of this stuff. And that's smart. Going into the health aspect of it is you don't want to match guys up and get them decapitated, because there's a lot of times guys are brought in as hometown. They're set to sacrifice to the wolves. And with the commission, I know that they pay a little more close attention to that. Who's if you can give me one fighter that you know for a fact. Actually, I know. Give me 3 fighters that right now that if you called them, they would take a fight if they were allowed to at any weight. I got one, and I know you're going to say. Go ahead. I want to hear it.
I guarantee you, one will be Dan Head, without doubt. Another one is James Schaefer. He hasn't been around as long, but he's a guy that definitely would. Dan.
McIntosh will fight tonight if you'd like.
Yeah, And McIntosh is a guy that I think I'm about the only guy that ever gave him notice for fights. I mean, he still took stuff last minute, but, you know, a lot of the fights that he fought for me, he did well in or won because he at least had some sort of a notice. You don't know how many times I was picking him up and taking him to boxing fights and literally like, who is this guy you're fighting? Oh, it's the promoter. You know, like I literally was taking him to Gary and he's fighting the promoter in a boxing match, you know, and I'm like, he's like, well, his wife is technically the promoter so that he can fight, but, you know, and he's like, Superman Finley, what's his name?
Finley?
Like, a legit boxer, you know, a guy that's probably 20 pounds heavier than Ryan, you know, and
yes,
he goes up there, cracks the dude, and then realizes like, oh, wait a minute, I wasn't brought here to win. Let me get out on my sword, you know. But it was that type stuff, you know. I've been all over the country with that guy.
Yes, exactly. Conner, have you you got a fight coming up this weekend at BKFC? From my experience, how many times have you taken fights even shorter notice? Myself, I've been there to fight an opponent, and I was on the scale, and my opponent supposedly didn't no-show, so I would go up a different weight class. Like out of my brother's losses, that's most of them are from taking short notice fights. Do you have any of those experiences yourself, Conner, besides the one you're sitting in right now?
I mean, I took a short notice fight for Gamebred, and I fought an Olympic wrestler who had a full training camp, and I had like 3 weeks for that one, which wasn't too bad. I had to cut to 55, but like this is like after 5 years on the couch. You know, my father had cancer and shit, so like I was hanging around at home, and I wasn't, you know, looking to travel around or do anything. So it was like one of those like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going out there and I'm gonna beat the shit out of this guy. I don't care what the fuck he does. I don't care where he's from, you know. And that didn't work out for me in the long run, but I'm not gonna bitch and moan. With this coming up, I got a redemption piece, you know. So no matter how things went last time, no matter how things go this time, I'm the dude who jumps in there and does that shit. So I could give a fuck less. I will fight your best guy, your worst guy. I'll fight the tall guy, the small guy. It doesn't matter. But I just realized that, you know, 31 years old.
Having a malfunction with your internet, I believe so.
Go ahead.
I think we're having technical difficulties. Yeah, you there? You can hear me, can't you, Mark?
I can hear you.
1, 2, 3, not it. It's your fault, Conner. Hey, I know right now that on your record right now it says 0-1 versus Wi-Fi, TKO to strikes.
For a minute, it sounded like he was talking in auto-tune. I like it.
Yep, it's a little glitchy.
Has he ever fought Jonathan Ivey? That's the first thing I thought of was like the way that, I was watching the highlight as he was talking, and it was like, and he fought at Gamebred, and I'm like, man, I'm surprised they didn't put those two together.
Speaking of Jonathan Ivey, a lot of people might be familiar with the clip with Travis Fulton where he'd had mercy on him, where he was just, at the time, childhood idol, and he pretty much felt bad for beating on him, so he stopped himself when Jonathan Ivey's a rare talent. I remember Coliseum Combat Blue was on the map big time even more after. Oh, there he is. Mark had a question. He wanted to know. He thought you might have crossed paths with Jonathan Ivey, because the way your mentality is, he's very similar as a heavyweight. If you're not familiar with Jonathan Ivey, do yourself a favor later, and I'll send you a little highlight. You actually might have seen back whenever Travis Fulton a couple of years ago was fighting a guy, and the guy tapped out because he wanted to have compassion on him. That was in Mark's show. That was Coliseum Combat. It was. And Jonathan Ivey's one of them guys. You look at his record. First off, he's got so many damn fights on his record that it takes like 10 terabytes to even load it. whenever you look it up on the screen. And people can judge records, this, that, and the other, but the man's fought any and everybody. And he's a lock.
Yeah, every heavyweight that's been the UFC at some point fought Ivy, and he's one of those guys like you were talking about. I think that all of Ivy's pre-sanctioning losses got put on the record, but I don't think all of his pre-sanctioning wins got put on the record.
Exactly.
You know, I think he had some wins that didn't get reported because the promoter was, favoring their boy, but if they beat Jonathan, it definitely got reported. Back then, Sherdog was about the only one. So, yeah, I think Ivy's record's that way because part of it was, I think, some of his wins. I've seen videos of him winning fights that aren't on his record, but if he lost a fight, it got on his record for sure.
And I know from experience, a lot of promoters in the day when unsanctioned fights were going on, they didn't want a paper trail back to them if they had videos or turned in results, then that means they'd have to report such and such show. There might be 20 shows happening a year, but they only three fight event results show up and such. Speaking of Ivy, I watched. I was 15 years old when he ended up fighting one of my childhood heroes, and who I'd go on to join Gary Myers' team Wolfpack. I watched Gary and John Ivy fight in Muncie, Indiana, and he TKO'd him with elbow. He was headbutting him with elbows to the stomach. First time I'd ever seen somebody. It was when headbutts were still legal, and Gary was headbutting Ivy in the belly, and he was smiling. If having fun is what determines win or losing fights, Jonathan Ivy would have never ever lost a fight because he's literally what I call him a heavyweight Diaz brother. Like he has that mentality, same way, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah. That's right. I like that mentality. Makes me feel good. Like, I might not have the best record in the world, but people are always going to remember that I'm ready to throw hands at any time, and it doesn't matter who the victim is, so.
We're in the hurting and entertainment business. And the thing is, you always need people to hurt somebody and entertain. But also, and this is maybe breaking a little kayfabe here, speaking on the business, but there's a lot of times that promoters know that fighters have, they have an indomitable will, and they kind of can weaponize their pride against them. Not weaponize because you have to sign up yourselves, but that you best believe that all of us have that alpha in us, and we all, want to not turn down fights. So and that's the thing. Everybody has a different purpose for their journey. You know what I'm saying? So you're doing this, like for instance, myself, if I was ever to fight again, I would do it because I'd want to have an outlet, a reason, you know what I mean? Something to get myself motivated, yada, yada. But Mark, do you have any shows coming up in the future, anything planned that you want to talk about?
No, I'm probably going to take a little liaison, an indefinite, I wouldn't say retirement, but I kind of got to a point where I wasn't excited to do a show. So I figured, like anything, I've never half-assed anything, and if I'm not excited to do one, I'm not going to do one. So a lot of it is here in Kokomo, we had the event center. That ended up closing. We got an armory. That's getting ready to close. And I got into this to bring MMA to my hometown. We did that for over a decade. But right now, there's not a viable venue, and I never did it to do it on the road. So right now, I'm just I've got the card shop. I do a card show here at the shop once a month, and who knows what the future will bring. But right now, I do not have an MMA show on the horizon.
Speaking of, you have
that might be breaking news.
Oh yeah, exactly. Breaking news.
Might be
I hate to hear that, honestly. I didn't know that, honestly. I hurts my heart a little bit because your show, I know for a fact, is one of the biggest in this, obviously in the state, and it's a feeder system to the big leagues. Except we had Van Camp is in the UFC. We've had Fallon signed to the Bellator. We've had so many guys come through. Nick fought for me at my last show I had in December, and then his next fight was in the UFC a few weeks later. So
it's, and like I said, I'm not necessarily going anywhere. I'll always be around to help people, or if, there's a show around that wanted somebody to help matchmake, or if there's, but for me, doing the show, doing it, it's a lot on me, my family. And like I said, I did it to do something here in Kokomo, and right now that's not really something I can do. So in the meantime, I'm going to focus on the card shop and watch people excel in the sport. And like I said, I can go and corner Mckena'S and not feel like I'm biased, or I can go and watch Fallon fight, in Bellator and root them on and stuff, and go to fights and cheer and not feel like I'm rooting for one guy or the other. And so, we'll see what happens. But for right now, I've got no shows lined up.
All right, you can we going. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was gonna say that's got to be hard being the promoter. You just everybody is gonna watch you. Especially the fighters. They're gonna watch you, see if you're cheering for somebody, or you can't really enjoy yourself at a show because you got to worry about everything going on. Which also kind of sucks, because being an MMA fan, you want to watch the fights and feel like you can, express yourself, or clap even, But I totally get what you're saying with that, not being able to, be in the moment almost.
Right. I very seldom watch the fights live. I'd watch them on YouTube or something after the fact, and I'd either be in the back, or like at the Armory, we had to keep the fighters down in the basement. So I'd usually be in the basement with the fighters, and not, we'd have like a little monitor I could go and peek at every now and again, but I never really, watched the show or the whole fights. Sometimes I go cage side for like the pro fights, but then I'd be nervous because like they're my buddies. I didn't want either guy to really lose, so I'd be sitting there, my palms sweating and stuff. And like I said, I'm 47. I'm getting close to 50, and it's a young man's sport, not just for fighters, but for promoters too. And it's a lot to look after. It's a lot to chase down, blood work, physicals, contracts, sponsors, and like I said, who knows what the future will hold, but, I ain't getting any younger.
I got an idea. If you do go that route, I think we should get one big last hurrah and try to get almost like going out with a bang per se. But get Mckena'S. Probably have him fight Van Bo again if they want. Try to get some old school. We need to have a real big card to go out with a bang if you're going to do that. And I'll get down there and have a reason to get some Oscar's pizza, because I haven't had none yet. But
no, that's good stuff. Yeah, and like my daughter, I think everybody's more saddened by it than I am. But I mentioned it to my daughter that I wasn't really sure, and she's just now getting ready to be 21, so she was wanting to go to an after party, and I'm like,
bless it.
We don't ever get to go and enjoy ourselves at after party. We got to get up the next morning, tear the cage down, get the venue looking back. I was like, I'd rather take you to somebody else's event than we can go to the after party and actually enjoy ourselves. So, I think like anything, my kids have grown up with it. It's been a huge part of my family's life. So, like anything, they're sad that it's not going to be around, but I think they're happy that at this point I'm happy with not having to do one, or not have one right around the corner. And, like I said, there's a million reasons, but it all just kind of culminated in the fact that I'm just not excited to do one, so why do one? So.
Yeah.
Looks, one of our viewers said, Matt Lyle, he's fighting July 1st, defending his David versus Goliath title, number 3. He's fighting Kavlicek. He's 118 pounds versus a 165-pounder, no limit Muay Thai. He says, have a good night. Thank you for watching, Matt. And if I can give you any advice, you better be training your butt off. Say your prayers and eat your vitamins. Does that sound a little familiar?
Yeah.
We're a lot cooler than Hulk over here. Hey, we do our air squats and cast our spells.
That's right.
118
versus 165.
I'd like to get a little more background info on this. I think he done ran off on us. But I got a question for you, Mark. You can leave it and names out of it, names aside, anonymous. Give us a good story that's happened. Like it could happen at an after party, something funny, something that really sticks out as a promoting a show that you with one of the fighters or something that you remember over the years. Something that like it's pretty funny. Doesn't matter. Give us a good story.
Oh, there's numerous stories. I mean, there's a few that involved Dan Head. Like there's one time I got called and I had to get him off the roof of the bowling alley after an after party. And Dan's one of those guys. It'd be funny, like over the course of the night, like as he drank, he'd be really happy Dan. Then he'd be kind of crazy angry Dan. And then he would turn into like really sad Dan because he was angry Dan. So like by the end of it, I've coaxed him down. He comes off the roof. And then I've got like snot on my shirt, from hugging on him and like, yeah, Dan, it's all right, man. Yeah, it's okay. Yep. Like, yeah, but he's had some good ones. Macintosh one time. I mean, I can remember them doing like cake stands after the fights. Him and his opponent were the guy from the concession trailer had left the beer unlocked, so they're over there finishing off the tap kegs that the concession trailer guy had brought for the fights. So yeah, those guys always did a pretty good job of making it memorable, let's say. But,
go ahead, excuse me.
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm one of my my brother's early pro fights. That loser Johnny per se, he was fighting for Mark Cuban in it was one of the early HDNet fights cards, and it was on pay-per-view actually. When pay-per-view was HDNet, when you started to pay for the actual events on there. And long story short, he got weighed in, was having to do like obligations for media, and I was cramping up so much I got a standing ovation at the weigh-ins because I had to puke up my last 2/10. Well, I get to the media obligations the night before, and there's literally like a fondue fountain full of chocolate. Let's just say, like, if it would have been 2020 with the pandemic, they'd have thrown me in prison for 50 years. I was over dipping whole watermelons in that son of a bitch trying to get replenished. And my opponent was talking smack, and I literally did not even care what he was saying. After I ended up TKOing him the next night in under a minute, and he was apologizing for how he was acting. I was like, I just sold it. I was like, yeah, it shouldn't have been like that. I didn't even have a damn clue what he was talking about. All I remember is wah, wah, wah.
Was that Bodog or HDNet or?
No, this was Diesel Fighting Championships. It was actually
okay.
They were showing they had the WEC cards earlier, were the first cards on there, and this was 2006 actually. It was one of my early pro fights. But there's post fight. There's always some crazy stuff that goes on, but I won't break kayfabe, as they say, talk about the business too much. But I met to meet a lot of good people around. I've gone traveling around the world, fighting and taking fights in other states, obviously. But anyways, whenever you lose focus like I do, that's why I take Nerd Focus. I love drinking Nerd Focus. It's our sponsor. We're going to send you a clip of the week afterwards. Cue it, David. Back for the Nerd Focus Fight Fact of the Week. This week, 20 years ago, July 8, 2003, Fedor Emelianenko actually showed that he was part human. He was fighting Fujita when he was clipped with a shot, was hurt early in the fight, but Fedor would come back and score a body kick to drop Fujita and strangle him with a rear naked choke. And after he looked a little human, he had a lot of more people trying to call him out. But this week, 20 years ago, Fedor Emelianenko overcame Fujita's Ironhead's right hand to strangle Fujita. And that is your fight fact for Nerd Focus of the Week. Thank you. I apologize, Nerd Focus. I didn't drink my whole Nerd Focus, and I I seen something shiny part through the interview, so I get a little sidetracked every now and again. That's why my line is, let's get ready to mumble.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was totally improv, just off the top of my head. You would have thought I was reading off a teleprompter, but you'd have had to realize that I have to read to be able to do that.
That's unprofessional.
Yeah, if you ever want to hide the plans, like the X marks the spot, directions to the treasure, hide it in a book. That's like kryptonite to me. That's the only I can't read. Not really. No, but I see. I like the green that you're rocking there, Connor. Why don't you give us a 360? Let me see that.
Are you ready for this shit?
Oh, I'm ready too.
Oh,
what you know about this?
Mr. Slater, give him the big screen.
Woo!
Look, oh yeah.
We got the sponsors up here. Look at that. Oh shit!
It is pretty clean.
Look at that airtime right there.
Oh yeah. Oh, swag. Oh, Irish Mickey Ward. I mean, it's not nothing like this good old singlet I got here. You know what I'm saying, big dog?
Yeah.
That is nice.
I like to hit my warm-ups here. You're lucky that I got this. I get DQ'd for wearing my badass shades on the mat. That's the only thing that saves these son of bitches. I told them if they wanted to see my list of my past opponents, check the extinct species list. You'll find everybody that I had to smash. That's why remember I told you guys T-Rex's arms were this short because I kept ripping Kimuras on him. I got in Evolution's way. He's talking all that smack, didn't want none of Mullet Mac, baby. And I'll just be honest. I know I don't mean to get ahead of myself, but you know what I mean. When you're the reflection of perfection and give even the women erections, that's the way it goes, baby. That's why I wear old chosen green. There are a lot of. I would give a shout out to all my wrestlers and the guys that are brevin, graduating. My nephew just graduated Tristan from Wabash. We got Colton Hunt. He's graduating. Give him a shout out. Coach loves y'all. So Mark, to get a little off topic here, if you had to be stuck on an island with one card, what card would you take with you that you wouldn't even want nobody else to have if you weren't no longer here? What's your favorite card that you have in your collection? Sports card, that is, for the watchers.
Man, probably a 55 Jackie Robinson.
Woo.
Yeah, like
Nice.
I've had a few of them, but it's one of those I always like to have. That and a Satchel Page 53
Satchel Page.
Yeah, those are some that like. The last satchel I had, I wasn't sure I'd sell it, but somebody wanted it more than me, and it was like, well, I can always buy another one. But like the Jackie and the satchel, those are some I always try to have, 55 Jackie. So yeah, if I had to take one with me, that's what it'd be. Definitely not the most expensive card.
What's your current favorite card?
Oh man. Right now we've got like a Lou Alcindor rookie. I have like a pretty obscure bowling card, but the only reason why it's graded by PSA a mint 9, but the guy was from Kokomo, but he's a bowling Hall of Famer. His name's Don Johnson, not the guy from Miami Vice. But it's like a pretty rare card just because he's been deceased for quite a while and they didn't do a whole lot of bowling cards, but it's an autographed card of his, and it's I don't know, it's pretty obscure. Like it's one of those that I don't really have for sale. It's like I had to bring it back to Kokomo just because the guy was from here originally and he's in the Bowling Hall of Fame. So, yeah, believe it or not, they even have bowling cards.
That's cool.
That's
this is something cool too.
At least, see, my mom, she lied and told me that my dad's name was Don Johnson, and he started a movie called Miami Vice because she was always bugging him.
See this? This is from 1945.
That's
I had
sick.
no idea. I had to research it, but it's a Joe Louis boxing card.
Oh shit!
And, that's sweet.
It came in through the card show a few weeks ago. A buddy of mine's like, "Here, I don't know about boxing. Check it out," And It took me a while to find out exactly what the heck it was, but it's from 1945. So, like, there's some obscure stuff that comes through that you're just like, I never even knew that existed. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, one of these guys, I whooped his ass and stopped him with leg kicks, and I held him down and made him sign one of his cards for me. Look who this is. Oh yeah, can you see that bad boy right there? Oh yeah, Edson Barboza. I let him after he tangled with me. They call him Deadson Barboza, but that's here nor there. A couple little Jan Gary cards. I got a little Jonathan Taylor game 1 jersey card, rookie card.
Nice.
Little, you know, I mean, not to boast or nothing. You know, I don't like to brag a lot or nothing. I mean, I just got.
He's got a shoebox.
Oh! Just had to make you guys feel good. I dropped them. Those are all. Those are all my base cards. I done that. That was like a prop. I just wanted to make you guys feel sorry for me, but those cards ain't worth nothing. Those are my stage cards. I throw down to try to get a little sympathy. No, but yeah, man, I got a couple cards. At least I spent a lot of money on it, but at least it ain't cracked.
That's right.
No. If you have a card habit, you can't have a crack habit. You can't have both. You got to pick. You can either be into cards or crack. Yeah, most people ain't got enough money for both. Yeah,
you know what I mean? I'm fine. I'll be honest with you. Crack might be a little cheaper than these cards these days. Hell,
that's pretty cheap. Yeah.
Some of them Prism and some of them Select. You're right. Yeah. Did you have some of them Select UFC cards back there?
Yeah, I got.
Those are probably more than crack.
Oh yeah, I got for sure. My preferred we got a question from Card Sales. Says, who's your preferred company to get cards from? Graded. Mark, all mine are raw. I don't get mine graded because, I mean, when you're perfect, it's kind of pointless to have somebody try to grade you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But where do you, PSA, what's yours?
I like SGC just because I'm more into vintage cards. I don't grade a lot either. I'm more of a raw guy, as they say. But the few cards that I've bought or that are usually graded, I tend to like SGC just because I like the way the vintage cards look and the black, the black slabs and stuff. So I'm partial. Yeah, I like SGC.
Yep. Carcel says National Treasures are $4K a case. Yeah, they are. Those National Treasures, and I'll be honest with you, the money they're paying, they got to get a handle on some quality control at Panini. I've seen Ray Charles freaking draw a damn stencil something cleaner than those. They give you. I don't want to get into it, but put it this way: they need to work on their Panini. Needs to work on their quality control, especially when you're talking about first off the line in your hobby box, your hobby line. Obviously, I'm just an old junk retail guy. That's all. I can't help it, right? What about yourself, Mark? What's a hottest seller in your shop as far as cards wise?
We're kind of known more for vintage stuff. So every Tuesday and Friday, I get these. I call them my old timers, or a few retired guys. They come in, they'll sell me some junk, buy a few things. But we're definitely known more for vintage. The one day a month, it's always usually the second Saturday we do the card show. I rent out my tables and we have about 40 vendors set up. That's when it's a little bit of everything in here. But typically for what I do, a lot of what I'm selling is vintage. Like you were saying, some of the cheaper retail, some hobby boxes, but a lot of it's more of the vintage stuff. We got guys coming in to build sets, guys coming in for 50s and 60s baseball, stuff like that.
Conner, do you ever collect any cards yourself?
I don't collect any cards, but I am a nerd with some comic books, man. Yeah, I'll kick it with the old comic books. I love any 80s comic book. I got a pretty good collection. I just picked up it's called Do You Poo, but it's a metal comic cover, and it's I think they only made like 300 of this one, but it's Deadpool, Captain America, and Winnie the Pooh all in one comic with Rick and Morty. So it's pretty pretty fun, pretty cool. That's the type of shit I collect. I collect movie props. I got a gremlin behind me, shit like that. You know, I got Chucky over there in the corner. So,
yeah,
you're getting ready to fight bare knuckle. I got one thing to show you real quick.
and what's funny, you know, the Green Hornet, the magazine we support, we had the Brown Locust. Oh, there you go.
Oh shit, dude.
Tom Shoaff, he's the man.
Oh hell yeah!
One of the best fights I ever seen in person was at Mark's show. It was Shoaff versus Tyler Combs. Tyler Combs. You want to talk about the Red Cross was there getting donations. It was, I'm telling you, it was a slobber knocker. They was throwing down. Tom Shoaff, he's an animal, dude. I'm telling you, he's one of those guys that he the definition of tough isn't how much ass whooping you can whoop. It's how much you can take. And he could take it. And I'm telling you, Luis Palomino even said, everybody, Tweedy said he's one of the toughest guys. Austin Tweedy, stud, you know what I mean? Good.
I was at that fight. I was at the Tweedy show fight up at HFC. I was there. That fight was brutal.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, like, win, lose, or draw. Like, if you're not in the best shape of your life, ready to, like, he's willing to die in there. He's like a Gagey mentality type. Go out on a shield every single time. And if you're not at your best and ready to go the whole fight, if you have to, he'll beat you. He weaponizes his cardio and the dog in him.
That dude's
I had to show off and brag a little bit, but yeah, he sent me that card and that little medal from the Bare Knuckle Hall of Fame. But yeah, those cards, I guess they didn't make many of them, so I guess that's probably one of my rarest cards I have is my Tom Shoaff auto.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I just had to flex a little bit on you. You said they're showing them guns in your singlet. I had to show off a little bit too.
The NRA's already sending me text messages saying they're going to get me for terrorist threats. But yeah, my loser brother Johnny had a card of his made, but my mom used to put it up to run the roaches and rats off. We had a tough. You don't know what it's like until you had a Rent-A-Center bill in your name since you was 3 years old. When I had the debt collectors banging down the door asking for Mac the Mullet, and I was over there in a diaper, and they was ready to impound all 4 of my cars that belonged to all 3 different uncles I had. Yeah, that's when you know you's a man. If you ain't had your credit ruined by the time you was 12, you ain't worth the shit. I'll just tell you that.
Right. Damn straight, darn too.
Yeah, but it's been a great time with you guys. Anybody you want to give your shout outs to, some sponsors, tell somebody you love them, go ahead. Let's hear Conner, do us the honors. You started off.
So I would like to shout out, Deep Woods Mafia Gun Shop, Bodacious Heat, the best hot sauce in the game, and my place of business, Wendell's Furniture. Go to Wendell's Furniture, get the best furniture in Vermont. We're the biggest and best, just like me.
Last thing, prediction. Who do you got this weekend? At the UFC, Amanda Nunes versus Aldana. Conner, who's your pick? Aldana, Nunes, via fashion.
I'm going for Nunes just because I'm a Nunes fan. I've watched her whole career. I think she's great, and I'm just going to pull for her.
Mark, who do you got? Aldana or Nunes? UFC 289 main event.
I'm agreeing with Conner. I think it's – and not even necessarily I'm pulling for. I just think that if I was going to bet, it would be on Nunes.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys seen Aldana's coming off the first that I've ever seen. She knocked the girl with an body kick, but it was an up kick to the liver with her heel. And she TKO'd the girl from her back with an up kick. But I'm going to take Nunes inside round 1 with TKO with elbows, which brings me to Beneil Dairouche, 8-fight win streak, hasn't lost in 5 years, coming off big wins over Mardas Gamrot, who's 22-1. My boy Mike Brown's protege. But Gamrot's an animal, beat much of guys. But he's taking on Oliveira. I'm probably going to have to go with late. Oliveira gets gassed after some few sub attempts and ends up getting TKO. Dairouche by TKO late championship rounds, fourth and fifth round if it goes that long.
I agree.
Who do you got, Conner? Dairouche or Oliveira?
I agree with that. I would say, I could see Oliveira getting, tired in the fourth and getting, wrapped up or caught.
Mark, who you got?
I think Oliveira. Yeah, I think he's going to do something surprising and end in the first round.
Hey, and that's the thing. Oliveira, in my opinion, might be one of the most well-rounded fighters that's ever stepped in the octagon because he has a high-level Muay Thai, unreal, the most submissions in UFC history. He's taken down college wrestlers. Ask Tony Ferguson. He's submitting guys. He's off his back. He's unbelievable, and he's actually got his wits about him. You know what I'm saying? So that's why people used to question his heart, and I think a lot of it came from him cutting so much weight. But we'll have to see. But it's been great, fellas. It's been a good ass time. I welcome you to come back and join us anytime, Mark and Connor. I wish you the best with the rest of your weight cut. I'll be tuning in, maybe do a little fight companion.
Yeah.
It's been great, you guys. And I'm Mullet Mac, your host, and we're over and out. We love you. Love you. All my nieces and nephews, Zage, Natalia, Malaya, all my other nieces and nephews, all my wrestlers that I call my nephews, all my athletes that I love you, Rachel, my heart, my soul. Over and out. I broke character, but it's been a good time on Mac The Mullet Show. Have a good evening, guys. Peace and love.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good one. Thank you.